Hi, I'm Emily. Welcome to episode 26 of Holding the Sticks, a hockey themed fiber arts podcast. Hi, everyone, and welcome to my living room here in the Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina. My name is Emily, and you can find me on Ravelry as Shanti Dragon and on Plurk, Twitter, and Instagram as Emily3022. Would love to hear from you in any of those places. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch me today. It is Monday, August 12th, 2013, and I am having issues, as you can tell, with the lighting today. Mostly it's just making my face glow red, glow white here. So I have a window here and I have a window over here. And if I hold my hands up, you can actually see my face. And I have the shades closed and everything, but just not working out. The sun is playing peekaboo today, so it'll come and go. Hope it's not too annoying for you, but I know most of you don't watch this podcast to look at my face anyway, so I think it'll be just fine. A little bit of podcast news. I've heard nothing from Blip, so there's no news on that front, but I am still in the process of streamlining the podcast to prepare for the day that may or may not ever come that Blip will boot me out off of their servers, and I will have to find another means of broadcasting or distributing the podcast. And if that happens, I need to keep each episode under 30 minutes. So working on streamlining that. And this week's change, I keep moving things around, and I hope y'all will bear with me, but I have moved the chatter section into the second period. Now, the second period in the past has been called training room, and that's where I talk about my fitness. I am changing the second period to off ice, and that will include the training room and my chatter section. And that way, on the weeks when I don't have a whole lot to say about fitness, I will still have chatter and stuff to go. So I have noticed in recent weeks that it's hard for me to find enough to talk about in the fitness section. And there are several massage therapy related things that I would like to do in the future, but I have not been able to. I'm going to need help with some of those because I want to show a few massage techniques and things like that. So I'm going to need help from my husband or another cameraman to help me with those. So those will be coming down the pike too in that same section. Just wanted to give you all the heads up, and I'm trying to make it easier for those of you who only want to watch the fiber arts part of it. That will be the first period still, and hopefully that will make things a little bit easier for everybody and a little easier for me to keep things under control as far as time goes. That is it, so let's get into the first period. Okay, we are in the zone today. First period is going to be the longest today, and I'm sure most days or most weeks the first period will be longest, and that's how it should be since this is a fiber arts podcast. In the zone is where I talk about everything related to fiber arts that I am into. So first of all, we'll get into some developing play, and those are my works in progress. First of all, I have been working on the Knit Sampler Afghan from Coats and Clark. I finished square number 4, which I was working on last week, I believe. I believe this one is called Daisy Chain. And here's how it turned out. Really like it. The colors remind me of my preteen years in the 80s. They're very much brighter than they're showing on my screen, although I've noticed when the video goes through processing, things change a little bit, so it might not be quite as off as I think. But this is a bright berry pink. In fact, the colorway name is Berry, and then this is a very much 80s style teal right here. colorway name is called Teal. I'm knitting this with Red Heart Soft on size 8 5mm needles. And I started square number 5, which is a very intricate cabled square. So here's the start of it. And I have a picture here of what it will look like when it's done. Oh good, it's right here where I can find it easily. This is what the Afghan will look like when it's done. Except for, this is a free pattern, so don't worry if you saw any of the pattern stuff. I am making this double-sized, so it'll be twice that big. And of course my colors are different, because I have to be different. So that is my first project for developing play. My second one, I am still working on the Freya mittens, and that is for my current craft along that I'm hosting on the Holding the Sticks Ravelry group. I'll talk about that more in just a little bit. I'll grab those mittens to show you. And I have a picture here. I can show you what they'll look like when they're done. Okay, this is what Freya will look like. My mittens that I'm working on right now. Some colorwork mittens. This pattern is by Emmy Peterson. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. And I believe it might have been in Knitty, but I can't remember for sure. I'm knitting these with Knit Picks palette yarn in 2 colorways. I can't remember what they are because I've had them for so long in my stash and the ball bands are long gone. But I'm using a US size 1 2.25mm needle. I have made some progress since last time, so we'll hold it sideways so you can see better. There is the back of the mitten, and then my favorite is the front side of the mittens. There we go. I love this heart pattern. Oops, upside down. I love that. In fact, if I made these again, I think that I would do the whole mitten in this pattern instead of the one on the back. The one on the back is pretty as well. And I am still not positive that these are going to fit me very well. So they fit they're not uncomfortably snug, but they are very form-fitting and snug, and we'll see if they're long enough. That's going to be the deciding factor, is if they're long enough, then we'll leave them. If not, I'll have to frog the whole thing and start over with a larger needle, I believe. So, super happy with those. Next project I have in developing play is my Rhinebeck sweater. And I know I have a picture of it. Okay, so I am knitting to wear to Rhinebeck. This is Granville. It's a zipper fronted cardigan hoodie. And I won the pattern from the Apple Blossom and You podcast several months ago. I'm knitting this with hand spun yarn, and I spun the yarn from the Knit Picks Wool of the Andes Roving in the Merlot colorway. Got about a worsted weight with it, and I'm going to show you the front of the cardigan as well. That's what I'm staring down at my phone for. There's the front of the cardigan. And I'm using a size 6 US 4mm needle. And I have gotten quite a bit done here. Let's see. I have this, I'll tell you more about this bag in just a little bit here. I'm currently working on the front right of the sweater. So it's really hard to show. You know how it curls up on itself. You can see the bottom is gonna, I'm afraid that even when I finish this in Block It, that this bottom part is just gonna keep flipping up. So there may be a crocheted edging in my future for the bottom of this sweater. But you see the cable here. And the rest is just stockinette. The cable on the back is kind of the focal point of the cardigan, so I love that. I finished the front left, and it's going to curl up on itself as soon as I unfold it. There is the front left, And this is the part where the zipper will be attached. It's right on that cable there. So before too long here, I'll have the front finished and I'll be able to start on the back. And I always consider that sort of halfway done, but in this case, the sweater has a hood as well, so it's going to be a little bit of a long haul, I think. And just for those of you who spin, this is what the finished yarn looks like from that roving. It took me about a year. I spun up about 2 pounds of this Knit Picks Wool of the Andes roving in the Merlot colorway. So super excited about that. Can't wait to finish that sweater. I hope it fits. That's what I always say when I knit sweaters. I hope it fits. Because I swatch and I wash my swatches and I do all of that, but sometimes it just doesn't work out the way you think it will. And I had to do a couple of little modifications as well because of just the shape of my body. And I hope those work out too. I'll talk more about those when it's finished and I can point out what I've done. One more work in progress and developing play here. And pardon me while I lean over. Started a new pair of socks. I am finally knitting the Simple Skip socks, or I've heard them called the Simple Skype socks. Seems like all the podcasters were knitting these several months ago, and I'm late to get on the bandwagon. I'm typically a vanilla sock knitter because it's just my mindless travel knitting or hockey knitting or whatever. I am making these with the yarn that Hippie Penguin dyed up for the podcast. So this is the Holding the Sticks colorway in her podcaster sock yarn. I'm really, really enjoying this. It's a fingering weight, 100% merino wool. And that's what it's looking like so far. So I'm about a little more than halfway through the first sock. There's, if you like to see the variegation without the patterning, that's what it looks like. And just in case this isn't coming up well as far as the colors go, it's green and red and a purple, like a royal purple, and there's some white in there. So it's like all of my favorite colors all in one colorway. It's awesome. Thanks again for doing that, Hillary. That is just too cool. I didn't realize these were 100% merino wool until today, actually, when I was getting ready. I was doing the podcast notes, the show notes, and getting ready, and I figured out that it was 100% merino. Usually when that's the case, I will actually use sewing thread to reinforce the heels and toes. It's too late for that now, but this seems like a pretty sturdy yarn. Super soft and squishy. These are going to be very, very warm. I think it may be a heavy fingering. It's more of a heavy fingering than a light. They just feel like they're knitting up super thick and smooshy. Love it. So this is what goes in my purse. I bring these to work to knit when it's quiet and that sort of thing. And I have something else totally different that I want to work on during this upcoming hockey season. So I'll talk about that when I get to it, but I won't be doing just vanilla socks during hockey season this year. I'll be doing something different. Unless I change my mind, which is entirely possible, knowing me. Okay, let's get right into Spinnerama. I've been doing a little bit of spinning. Let me get my little spinning basket. All kinds of things in my basket here that shouldn't be in there. I am working on some Miss Babs fiber that I've had for several years. Can you tell that I'm trying to work down the stash a little bit? Trying to use up some of the things I've had around for a long time. But this is some Miss Babs. It's a wool and C-cell blend, if I remember correctly. I don't think it had a colorway name. And I have been spinning this up on spindles, which is a change for me. I haven't spindle spun in quite a while. Just caught a wild hair a few weeks ago and decided it was time to pull the spindles out. So I finished the first half of the fiber on my trindle. That's what I was working on last week. So there's the trindle and the fiber on there. There you go. Love my trindle. And the second half, I was going to wind that off and use the trindle for the second half as well, and I decided I have 3 or 4 spindles, I might as well use them, right? So I got my, one of my, I say one of my favorite spindles, all of my spindles are my favorite for one reason or another, but I really like this one. This is a Dragoncraft spindle. I don't think they have anything in their Etsy shop right now, nor have they in quite a while, unless I'm mistaken. But here's the fiber, and then the spindle. There we go. So this is my snow dragon spindle. It looks like dragons in the snow, and they're Chinese dragons, which are my favorite dragons. So I'm going to two-ply this together, and I've got my very first spindle is one that my husband made for me with just odds and ends that he found, and it's super heavy, so that'll be perfect for plying. This is what's left of the unspun Miss Babs fiber here, and there's some little dust. I was dusting earlier today, so I got a little dust in there. And that was for you, Polly. Polly, who used to host the Polly Knits podcast. He since has ended the podcast, but he sent me a message once and told me he wanted to dust my clarinet behind me. So I went ahead and dusted. I dusted everything in this corner. It's really sad these instruments really just stay on the wall all the time, but I had to dust before I podcasted so that Polly wouldn't get twitchy on me. That is it for Spinorama. That will probably be, hopefully at least the fiber will be spun up by next week. On to She Shoots, She Scores! Little edit there, I had to run and get them. I knew I would forget those. She Shoots, She Scores. I have finished the vanilla socks I was working on before. These are knit with my hand spun from the Into the World Superwash Merino Lavinia colorway. And I love these socks. I love them. These are going to feel so good this winter, and I think I made them tall enough that I'll be able to ice skate in them, which is exciting. So there is my finished object. These are just plain vanilla socks with a 2x2 rib cuff, Judy's Magic cast on for the toe, and just a normal short row heel. So there are those. Oh, and I used a US size 1 2.5 millimeter needle. I use those for pretty much all of my socks. That goes for the ones I'm working on now too, the Simple Skip socks. I don't think I told you who designed those Simple Skip socks. It's Adrienne Koo. That's her name. So that is it for all of my Fiber Arts goodness, but we still have the Rec League. So you know what that means. It's time for the Warm Hands Hoedown, y'all! The Warm Hands Hoedown is the current craft-along being hosted on the Holding the Sticks Ravelry group. So make sure to get your finished object pictures posted by September 30th, 2013. We are crafting any sort of hand warmer, so mittens, gloves, fingerless mittens, anything with a thumb hole. And you can use any pattern, you can double dip, and just post those pictures in the thread, and you can also chatter in the same thread. The way I draw for prizes is I just keep doing the random number generator until I land on a qualifying post, so it makes it easier for me just to have the one thread. The prize for one lucky winner will be a $25 Etsy gift certificate that will be drawn on the first podcast following September 30th. You must be a member of the group to win, and you have 1 month to claim the prize if you're the winner. If I don't hear from you within 1 month, then you will forfeit the prize and I'll draw a new winner. So I believe that's all of the rules for the Warm Hands Hoedown. So everybody, get those mittens and gloves knitted up and crocheted up and posted on that thread. All right, let's get into what's been going on off ice for me this week. We'll start with the training room, which is the segment you're used to seeing here in the second period. That's my fitness stuff, and I've had a very good fitness week, although I'm starting to get up into the higher range of my mileage capability in running, so I've had a lot more rest days to recover. I've had a little bit of aches and pains going on, so you know how careful I like to be. But I hit 2.5 miles of running at one time this week, so that's a big milestone for me. That means I am 0.6 miles away from hitting that 5K. 5K is 3.1 miles, so I'm almost to that distance that I need to be able to run for the race that I'm going to run in Raleigh on September the 8th. So that's exciting. I am just falling shy of my goal pace of a 15-minute mile on my hilly course that I run at home. However, I decided that it was time to try a flat course yesterday, and I went to a local, well, it's an old school, it's no longer in use, but they keep the track up there. It's not a normal oval track, it's a windy, but it's a quarter-mile round track, and I went there and ran around that 10 times for 2.5 miles. That's a little boring. I'm not a big fan of running on a track, but it got the job done. It was flatter. It's not completely flat, but it was a much flatter course, and I ran a 14-minute, 40-second mile on that. So I'm happy with that. Ran 3 times over the last week. I was on the bike at least once, and I know I've done a walk or 2 in there as well. So I'm pretty happy with my fitness effort this week. I'm thinking of hiring a running coach to help me with, I just feel like I'm very, very slow. A 15-minute mile, and most people walk a 15-minute mile, and I'm running one. And part of it is that I'm just short. I'm 5'2", and I have short little legs, and of course I'm running on hills, but 14:40 isn't that great of a time either. I'm wondering if I need to work on my foot strike and my stride, and there's no way to really know that without having a knowledgeable runner or coach watch me, and I just don't know if I'm that serious about it. Do you know what I mean? Because it's not like I want to make the Olympics or even really compete in these races. I'm mostly doing it, well, I'm doing it for fitness and for fun, and the races are just, motivation for me because, you don't want to embarrass yourself in front of all of these people. And this particular race is hosted by my Carolina Hurricanes, and that's a huge motivation that I don't want to make a fool of myself. So I don't know. I'm thinking about that. I'll let you all know if I decide to go with it. Have not purchased a running watch, GPS watch yet. I'm still thinking about that. I'm looking at the Nike Plus watch. That's the front runner in my mind right now if I go that route. And I'm also looking at possibly purchasing a treadmill for winter training because I really fell out of my running over the last winter. The weather just wouldn't cooperate. So I've got a friend who's selling an electric treadmill that has an issue or two that you always worry, how long is it going to work for if it has these issues. And then I also found a manual treadmill for around my price range. I have never run or walked on a manual treadmill, so I'm not sure if that's a really good option or not. I may purchase it and return it if it's not good. I don't know. If any of you have ever run or walked on a manual treadmill, let me know. I'd love to hear your experiences and if you thought it was a good thing or not. I don't know. I just need to have an option. I was on the bike all last winter, as you all know. I was very religious about getting on the bike 3 times a week or more, usually more, typically 5 to 6 times a week, but it just doesn't replace the running. I had to start over basically with my running training this spring. So I don't want to have to do that again next spring. I would like to be really working on my pace by then instead of working my way back up to 3 miles or 5K. So that is all that's going on as far as fitness goes. I've really been working hard on eating more vegetables because that's my weak spot in my diet. So that's been going really well, and I'm feeling better for it too. So I just need to keep doing it. As far as chatter goes, I am going to call this the final regular mom update. So that's a cause for celebration. Mom had an appointment with her oncologist last week. All of the tests are in after her double mastectomy. There's no sign of cancer. There's no sign of tumors. There's no sign of cancer. There's no sign of it in her lymph nodes. It is gone, 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 gone. Yay! We're so happy. She's getting her energy back. She's planning on going back to work on September the 1st. And I called her earlier this morning, and she was getting ready to go out for lunch with her boss. So that's awesome. And she says she is getting back into her walking routine. She walks a little further every day, and she's feeling really good for the most part. She still has a couple little things going on, but we're so happy. I think we're through the worst of it. Treatments will continue over the next several months, but like I said, I think we're through the worst of it. Prayers and good vibes and everything are still very much welcome, and we're so thankful to all of you that have been praying and sending good vibes and happy thoughts. Thank you very much for that. So that will be the last mom update unless something happens, and of course I'll tell you about it if something happens, but I won't be doing it every week anymore, so yay, that means mom's doing good. Yay. So aside from that, I had a really fun couple of weeks. I did skip a week, and the reason why I skipped a week of podcasting is that I got to go with some friends of mine to the North Carolina Transportation Museum in Spencer, North Carolina. Now this trip has been planned for several weeks, a couple of months really, and I didn't think I'd be able to go because I usually work on Saturdays. Just so happened that this particular week there was a little scheduling snafu at work that allowed me to not work on Saturday and work on Monday instead. So Monday is my usual recording day, as you can see. So the fact that I had to work last Monday meant that I didn't record the podcast. I thought I might be able to squeeze it in later in the week, but didn't happen. We had so much fun at the North Carolina Transportation Museum. It was really meant to be a joint birthday party for my husband, whose birthday was January 8th, and me, and my birthday's not until the end of the month. So my friends Rob and Cole reserved the birthday caboose for us. And the birthday caboose is attached to a real live working train. The museum has its own train, and it just goes like, it's a 30-minute ride, you know, from one end of the property to the other, basically. And the birthday caboose is typically rented by parents for their young children, and they have birthday cake and food and stuff like that. Well, yeah, we got some looks. We had a party of all adults. We're all grown-ups. There are, I think, 5, 6, 7 of us, maybe? There weren't very many of us, but we were all grown-ups. There was not a child among us. We all filed onto the birthday caboose. We got to ride twice, and we didn't have any birthday cake. The brakeman was very, very disappointed because usually he gets some of the cake for the birthday party. So next time, if we do this again, we'll know to bring a little cupcake or something for the brakeman. He's a very nice older gentleman. He has to be on the caboose to help put the brakes on if they need to be put on. So I got lots of pictures at the Transportation Museum, and I'll throw a couple of them in here. I'm sure I may have put some of those in the beginning as well. They have trains from all throughout history, and the working train was really the highlight because we got to ride. That was the first time I'd ever ridden on a real train. I've been on a zoo train and that sort of thing, but I've never been on a real live. I've been on the T in Boston, if that counts. I guess that does count, but there's something cooler about this somehow. Anyway, if you ever get a chance to ride the birthday caboose, I highly recommend it. I told them that they should be hosting wine tastings or, adult themed parties. Not adult themed, but adult parties on the train. I think that they could probably really make some money for the museum doing that, like wine tastings or just, elegant evenings on the train. Anyway, that is it for the second period. Let's get into just a teensy bit of hockey talk. Time to drop the puck for the third period and a little bit of hockey talk. It's going to be quick today because I believe I have chattered and jabbered quite a lot, and I think I'm running out of time. So just a quick little Hockey 101 today. I wanted to give you a little tidbit of information that I sort of knew. I knew some of it, but I didn't know all of it. So did you know that a goalie does not serve his own penalties? I knew this because I've seen goalies be called for penalties, usually things like tripping or occasionally a delay of game, that sort of thing. And they don't have to sit in the penalty box. One of their teammates has to do it for them. So goalies are exempt from sitting in the penalty box for the most part. Actually, I don't think they ever sit in the penalty box, but a goalie can be ruled off the ice if they get 3 major penalties in one game. So it is possible for a goalie to be removed from a game because of penalties. He can also be assessed a game misconduct, which means that he would have to leave the ice. Now, in most cases, when that would happen, the backup goaltender would come in to cover for him. If for some reason there is not a backup goaltender available, one of the goalie's teammates will have to put on the goalie gear and get in the net for his team. So I've never ever seen that happen in an NHL game, or an AHL game for that matter. But last season or the season before, I believe one of the junior hockey leagues in Canada, or it might have been a high school team, I don't remember. One of the youth teams had to put one of their regular players on the ice in goalie gear, and there are videos of it on YouTube. It was pretty funny. He did the best he could. We'll just put it that way. So that was an interesting thing to me. I knew that goalies didn't serve their own penalties, but I didn't realize that if he had 3 majors in one game, that he would be booted out of the game. So that's Hockey 101. And as far as general hockey talk goes today, it's the dog days of summer. There's really not much going on in the NHL right now. The Hurricanes have started releasing an interesting web series called Open Ice with Ryan Murphy. Ryan Murphy is one of our prospects. He played a few games with the Hurricanes last season, but he's still in that prospect phase where he goes to development camp and that sort of thing. They followed him around during the prospect camp back in July, and it's very, like I said, it's very interesting. You see a lot of behind the scenes stuff, but the camera work is not for anybody who would get motion sickness. I'm definitely not a professional video producer or camera operator, but I think they would be well served to back up a little bit. Like it seems like they're always zoomed in really close, and so the motions are very jerky and you're moving around and like really up in people's faces. I believe probably what's going on is that the person doing the camera work is probably used to doing interviews and things that are edited a lot more, where you want to zoom in on the person's face more. Part of the fun of watching these sorts of things for me is that you get to see the locker room. You get to see, you know, wherever they're at. Like you get to see the environment and the surroundings of the person. And when you're zoomed in so close all the time, not only does it make a really rocky experience for the viewer, but you don't get to see all that stuff that's going on around. So to me, it's fun to look at a video and see, oh, well, there's the person talking. You know, Ryan Murphy is talking about whatever. And oh, look, there's Coach Mueller over in the corner. And oh, look, there's Rod Brindamore over in the other corner. And oh, you know, there's Pete Friesen, the trainer, you know. That's what's fun for me, but that's probably personal preference, and I'm glad they're doing this because it's, like I said, it's very interesting and I am enjoying it. So that is available on the Hurricanes website, which is easily Googleable. And other than that, all I can say is that hockey season is coming. I can't wait until October. It is, as of today, 53 days until the Hurricanes opening night against the Detroit Red Wings. 53 days. Just 53 more. And the preseason starts even sooner than that. So if you are interested in counting down the days until NHL hockey starts, you can go to howmanydays.untilhockey.com. That's what I did. You can put in, when you just go to the website, it tells you how many days till the NHL season starts. I actually selected Carolina Hurricanes, and it gave me how many days until their first game. So, yay. I think the Checkers start a week or two after that. I will have to look that up. But I believe I have come to the end here. So until next time, may all of your fiber arts projects and your favorite hockey teams stay out of the penalty box.